Have you ever felt the weight of the world on your shoulders, a silent scream trapped within you, asking the universe, why me? Have you ever stared into the abyss of your own pain and wondered if it was just a cruel, pointless cosmic joke? You are not alone. This feeling, this deep yearning for an answer, is a sacred signal from your soul. It's a sign that you are standing at the threshold of a profound awakening. Many will turn away, but you, by being here, are choosing to look deeper. Understand this. Your suffering holds a divine secret, a key that can unlock a version of yourself you never knew existed. This isn't just a video, it's an activation. If this message already vibrates within you, let the universe know by liking this video, subscribing for more guidance, and sharing your journey in the comments. Your story of resilience is a beacon for others. Right now, at this very moment, someone somewhere on this planet is whispering that same question into the darkness. Why me? Another soul is desperately trying to piece together the fragments of their life, wondering if the agony they carry will ever make sense, or if it's just a meaningless burden they are destined to bear. But what if I told you there's a hidden doorway inside every single moment of suffering, a secret passage? What if there was a way of perceiving your pain so radical, so transformative, that once you walked through it, your entire reality would shift? You would never see yourself, or life, in the same way again. Stay with me on this journey, and you will learn the profound truth that allowed a man named Viktor Frankl to survive the darkest pits of human history. This is the truth that can set you free from the very suffering you believed would break you. Most of us are conditioned to live our lives on the run, perpetually fleeing from the phantom of pain. It's a frequency of avoidance that society broadcasts constantly. We are taught to numb it with distractions, bury it under layers of denial, or hide it behind a facade of relentless busyness. The world teaches us to view suffering as a flaw in the system, a problem that must be eradicated, an enemy to be vanquished at all costs. We see it as a sign that we are failing at the game of life, that we are somehow fundamentally flawed. So, it's no surprise that when suffering inevitably appears at our doorstep, our first instinct is to panic. We desperately ask, how do I make this stop? Or, in a more self-deprecating spiral, what is wrong with me that I can't fix this? This entire paradigm is built on a misunderstanding of a universal law. But Viktor Frankl, a brilliant young doctor and a rising star in the world of psychology, was forced to see suffering from a completely different dimension of consciousness. His reality was systematically dismantled. In the horrific crucible of the Holocaust, he lost everything a person can lose: his beloved family, his promising career, his fundamental freedom. Every comfort, every certainty, every pillar of his identity was brutally stripped away, leaving him naked in the face of absolute despair. Yet, it was in the heart of that unimaginable horror that Frankl discovered a universal truth, a divine spark that not only illuminated his own path to survival, but has since guided millions of souls out of their own darkness. He came to a profound realization, an awakening that would change the course of modern psychology and spiritual thought. He understood that suffering is not the end of meaning, it is the birthplace of it. That crushing pain, as cruel and senseless as it may seem, is often the very portal through which we become most vibrantly, authentically alive. Frankl wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Do you feel the power in that? Your suffering is not a random cosmic accident. It is an invitation. It is a divine challenge. The question is not how to escape it, but to find the courage to ask, what is this asking of me? What is this forging within me? Think back to a moment in your life when pain forced you to a dead stop. Perhaps it was the sting of a profound loss, the shattering of heartbreak, the trial of a serious illness, or the quiet, grinding loneliness of feeling completely unseen by the world. In those moments, a strange phenomenon occurs. The noisy, chaotic world suddenly gets smaller and sharper. The illusions begin to fall away. You start to notice things you never saw before. The shallow priorities you once chased lose their luster. The opinions of people who never truly cared about your soul's journey suddenly become irrelevant. The smallest comforts a warm ray of sun, A kind word from a stranger, the taste of clean water becomes sources of immense gratitude. Your perception shifts from the mundane to the sacred. Frankl discovered that in the crucible of extreme suffering, people are stripped of all the superficial layers that once distracted them from their core essence. In the concentration camps, he watched as men and women lost their possessions, their status, even their very names. And in that void, what was left was the unshakable truth of who they really were. What truly mattered was not what they had, but what they were. This is the strange, clarifying power of suffering. It is a spiritual fire that purifies. It burns away what's fake. It burns away what's shallow. It burns away everything that no longer serves your soul's evolution. And in that newly empty space, in that sacred emptiness, you can finally begin to build something real, something eternal. Frankl wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It is in the fire of suffering that you discover this ultimate freedom, the one power that no one and nothing can ever take from you." Most people operate under the belief that pain's only value is in its absence, that it must be avoided or conquered to have any worth. But Frankl's insight, born from the deepest levels of human experience, offers a different path. His wisdom reveals that pain becomes bearable the moment it is given a divine meaning. In the camps, Frankl observed a powerful truth. Those who survived weren't always the physically strongest. They were the ones who had found a reason to endure. They held on to a why. It could be the image of a person they loved, a belief they held sacred, a future hope they refused to let go of, or even just the unfinished business of a single task left to complete. Meaning doesn't magically erase suffering, but it transforms it. It alchemizes the lead of despair into the gold of purpose. When you find a why, as Frankl famously said, you can endure almost any how. This doesn't mean forcing yourself into a state of toxic positivity, pretending to be grateful for immense pain, or ignoring the reality of your situation. It means engaging in a sacred inquiry. It means asking, what is this suffering asking me to become? What higher truth can I carry through this fire, even if nothing else is left? Understand this. Pain without meaning crushes the human spirit. But pain with meaning can give birth to the strongest, most resilient parts of you. There's something no one tells you about suffering. It's often the very birthplace of your greatest wisdom. It is the crucible where your deepest compassion is forged, and it is the training ground for your most powerful strengths. When you survive something you thought would utterly destroy you, you gain a kind of unshakable confidence that no easy life could ever bestow. You become the lighthouse that others turn to when their own worlds fall apart. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've navigated the darkest roads and found your own way through. Frankl believed that suffering, when faced with courage and honesty, activates our highest human potentials. It teaches you to love more deeply, to forgive more easily, and to see the profound beauty in simple things that others, lost in their comfort, completely overlook. It makes you humble enough to ask for help and strong enough to never give up hope. He once wrote, "What is to give, light must endure burning." Your pain is not pointless. It is forging something within you, a new light, a new strength that might one day be the very thing that saves someone else. When pain comes knocking, most people instinctively ask the victim's question, "Why is this happening to me?" It's a question that keeps you trapped, powerless, and focused on the past. Frankl learned to ask a different, infinitely more powerful question. What is life expecting from me right now? Do you feel the shift? This small change in perspective changes everything. It moves you from the frequency of a victim to the vibration of a creator. It takes you from a state of powerlessness to one of purpose. Even in the darkest of places, you still possess the ultimate choice, the choice of how you meet your suffering. That choice is the sacred seed of your freedom. This isn't about denying how hard things are. It's about discovering that deep inside you is a strength, a resilience, and a story you never would have found any other way. If you have ever felt lost in the depths of your suffering, know this. There is another side. The The truth that Frankl found in his darkest hours can be yours too. In the next moments, you will see exactly how to find meaning in your hardest trials, and how that meaning can change not just how you survive, but how you truly live. Frankl discovered that meaning is not found in the pursuit of comfort or pleasure. It is found in how you relate to your pain. He described 3 primary pathways through which people can find this profound meaning, even when life is at its hardest. The first pathway is through creative work or achievement. This is the act of creation. Maybe it's something you build with your hands, a piece of music you compose, a story you write, a problem you solve, or a garden you tend. When you pour your energy and your soul into a project, an art form, or a goal, even a very small one, you perform an act of alchemy. You turn the raw energy of your suffering into something new, something beautiful, something that did not exist before. The very act of creating pulls you forward, giving you a reason to get up in the morning. It shows you that life can still produce beauty and order, even from a place of brokenness. The second pathway is through experiencing love or connection. This is the highest frequency. Even in the depths of suffering, you can reach for love. This can be found in caring for someone else, pouring your heart into a relationship, or even holding on to the sacred memories of those you've lost. It can be found in a moment of genuine connection with a stranger who, for a fleeting instant, understands your pain without judgment. Frankl saw how people in the camps could survive the most incredible hardships because of a single moment of kindness, a shared hope, or the vivid thought of seeing their loved ones again. Love is meaning in its purest, most powerful form. It is the ultimate connection to source energy and to each other. The third pathway is through the attitude you take towards suffering itself. This is perhaps the most profound of all. When everything else is gone, when there is no freedom, no comfort, and no hope of escape, you still possess the ultimate power, the power to choose how you carry your pain. Frankl watched people find profound dignity in the darkest of places, simply by refusing to give up their inner values, their core integrity. Sometimes, just surviving with compassion and integrity in an inhuman situation is the highest form of victory. Most of us are taught to run from suffering. We distract ourselves, we hide behind our phones, we fill our days with noise, or we convince ourselves that we simply don't care. But avoiding pain doesn't make it disappear, it only gives it more power. It allows it to grow in the shadows of our consciousness, to fester and control our lives from beneath the surface. Frankl's own life proved that facing suffering honestly is the only way to find true freedom. Avoiding pain leaves you stuck in the same old cycles, the same limiting patterns. It traps you in a state of fear and keeps you from growing into your fullest potential. When you finally turn and face your suffering, a miracle happens. It begins to lose its power over you. You learn that you are bigger than what hurts you. The pain may not go away immediately, but it stops being the author of your story. Something strange and beautiful happens when you stop running from suffering. You become more human. Frankl wrote that people who have suffered deeply often develop a profound well of compassion for others. They recognize the pain in someone else's eyes. They know how to offer real comfort, not with empty words, but with the genuine understanding that only comes from shared experience. Your suffering, when faced honestly, becomes a bridge to others. It teaches you humility, patience, and the courage to listen without judgment. The people who seem the strongest are often those who have survived the most, and who now use that hard-won wisdom to help others find their way. No one chooses their suffering, but every single person has the divine power to choose their attitude towards it. Frankl believed that this was the last of all human freedoms, and that it could never, ever be taken from you, not by prison, not by loss, and not by fate. The way you meet your pain shapes the person you become. Choosing your attitude is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It is about facing reality with brutal honesty and then deciding from the core of your being what kind of person you want to be within that reality. Will you become bitter, or will you become better? Will you close your heart off, or will you allow the experience to open you up? Will you let suffering harden your heart, or will you let it soften it into a new level of compassion? Every time you choose courage over fear, hope over despair, or love over anger, you reclaim your power. You become the author of your story, not just a character in it. Frankl believed that nothing in life, not even the most profound suffering, has to be wasted. He saw how people could turn the worst experiences imaginable into fuel for growth, wisdom, and service to others. Pain, when transformed by meaning, becomes purpose. So ask yourself, what could this pain be preparing me for? Who might I be able to help once I make it through this? What strengths are being born in me right now that I never would have found otherwise? The meaning you find doesn't have to be grand or heroic. Sometimes, it's as simple as deciding not to let suffering close your heart. You may not be able to change what happened, but you can always choose what happens next. One of the most difficult parts of suffering is letting go of the story you thought you were living. Loss, failure, heartbreak. They all force you to rewrite the script of your life. But Frankl saw that the end of one story is always the beginning of another. The meaning you find in your suffering becomes the sacred seed of a new life, a new chapter. Don't be afraid to let go of what was, so you can reach for what could be. Pain is not the enemy. It is the fertile soil where new dreams, new strengths, and a new you can begin to grow. There's a truth waiting for you just beyond the pain. In the next moments, you'll see exactly how suffering can become your greatest teacher and why Viktor Frankl's wisdom could change your life in ways you never imagined. There comes a moment when the pain you're carrying starts to feel less like a dead weight and more like a profound lesson. It doesn't mean you wanted it, or that you wouldn't give anything to be free of it. But something shifts inside you. You start to see that suffering is not only what happened to you, but also what's happening through you. In those moments of quiet reflection, the world grows still. Your inner voice, the whisper of your higher self, becomes clearer. You realize that your pain has shaped you, but it does not have to define you. Viktor Frankl believed that suffering, when faced with an open heart, can become one of life's greatest teachers. The lessons are never simple or easy. Sometimes they come in the form of patience, learning to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty when all you want are answers. Sometimes it's the gift of humility, the profound realization that you can't control everything, and that life has its own sacred rhythms and timelines. And sometimes, suffering teaches you acceptance, the acceptance of defeat, but the acceptance of what you cannot change, so that you can finally pour your divine energy into what you can. The world will try to tell you that your suffering is just bad luck, a curse, or a sign that you're not strong enough. But Frankl's wisdom shows us a different, more empowering way. Suffering can give you vision, compassion, and a depth of understanding that is impossible to learn from books or a life of comfort. It can transform you into a person whose very presence is a source of light for others. Most of us want our pain to go away, to not speak, to be silenced. But what if you truly listened? Every ache, every loss, every sleepless night, it all has a message. Maybe it's telling you what matters most in your life. Maybe it's showing you a part of yourself that still needs to heal. Maybe it's a divine sign that something in your life needs to change, or a sacred reminder that you have so much more to give. Frankl taught that the meaning hidden in pain isn't always clear right away. It often emerges slowly, like the dawn after a long, dark night. But by asking, "What is this pain trying to teach me?" you turn suffering from an enemy into a teacher. You might learn where you've been too hard on yourself, or where you've neglected your deepest needs. You might discover a well of strength you didn't know you had, or a purpose that wasn't clear to you before. When you give your pain a voice, you start to reclaim your power. Suffering may visit you, but it does not have to be your home. The wisdom you gain in the fire can become your guide for building a life that is richer and more meaningful than anything you had before. Frankl showed that meaning can be made, even from the hardest circumstances, by the choices you make every single day. Start by asking yourself, what do I want to do with the life I have left? You can create meaning by loving deeply, by giving your unique gifts to the world, and by turning your scars into bridges for others to cross. The past may shape you, but it doesn't get to decide your future. Small actions matter. A kind word, a helping hand. the courage to try again. Each is a step away from suffering as your story, and towards suffering as your teacher. When you make meaning, you reclaim your life as your own. The wisdom you earn through suffering is not just for you. Frankl believed that the truest purpose in life comes from serving others, from turning your lessons into light for those who are lost. When you share your story, you give others permission to hope again. You remind them that even in the worst of times, life can still be beautiful. If you've ever survived a dark night of the soul, you know the power of a kind word, a listening ear, or a simple reminder that things can change. Sometimes, your healing is someone else's roadmap. Your scars show the world that wounds can become wisdom, and that pain can give birth to purpose. Don't be afraid to reach out, to share your journey, to listen without judgment. The world is full of silent sufferers, waiting for proof that they are not alone. Frankl's greatest lesson is this: suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience, but despair is not. No matter what you lose, you always have the freedom to choose your response. You can let pain close your heart, or you can let it open you to new meaning. You can become bitter, or you can become better. When you see suffering not as the end of your story, but as the soil where meaning can grow, your whole life begins to change. You realize that nothing is wasted, not even your hardest days. You become more than just a survivor. You become a creator of meaning. Frankl wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedom stow, choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is your truth. This is your power. This is your path forward." If you're listening to this now, it means you're searching for a new way to carry your pain. It means you're ready for more than just surviving. You want to live with meaning, purpose, and hope. So take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is my suffering trying to teach me? How can I turn my pain into purpose? Who needs to hear my story? Your next chapter begins with the decision to find meaning, even in what hurts. Let Frankl's wisdom be your guide. Let your struggle be the beginning of someone else's hope. You have the freedom to choose, even now. If this video helped you see suffering in a new light, share your story or your biggest lesson in the comments. Subscribe for more wisdom and real guidance, because your journey to meaning and healing is just getting started.